Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 30th of May, 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed down 0.5% today to 7,628 points, with consumer discretionary stocks doing best, while the materials sector did worst. Energy and utilities companies also underperformed. Iron ore futures fell, hitting the big miners. Fortescue Metals Group dropped 3%. While Rio and BHP were both down about 1.5%, the banks were mixed while the energy companies fell. Santos dropped nearly 2%, while Woodside was down more than 1%. Cochlear, REA and Xero were among the best performers. The S&P ASX 200 is now down 3% from its highs of just 2 weeks ago. There's a bit going on in local bond markets as well, with traders now pricing in a near 30% chance of a rate hike later this year. That's after those higher than expected inflation figures earlier in the week. Market economists are less convinced of a rate hike, with the consensus being the next move will be down, though probably not until the new year. Story number 2, Brent crude continues to trade around the $83 to $84 a barrel mark, and that's keeping petrol prices across the country pretty low. According to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, petrol prices in Sydney are low, but turning. Maybe you fill up now if you live in that city. In Melbourne, they're about the lowest point of the cycle. Same deal in Adelaide, while in Brisbane, they may fall lower. In Perth, they are close to the highest point. Story number 3, the Reserve Bank Chief Economist Sarah Hunter today told a conference that the Central Bank Board is absolutely focused on the fact that inflation is clearly still above the target band. Doesn't sound like a comment recommending interest rate relief anytime soon. She said Tuesday's monthly inflation reading, where prices rose 3.6% for the 12 months to the end of April, confirmed there is still inflationary pressure in a number of categories. Notwithstanding the figures this week, Dr. Hunter said the bank will likely downgrade its inflation forecast to include the effects of energy rebates announced in federal and state budgets. She agreed that the rebates are likely to take around 0.5% off inflation. Story number 4, the Ukrainian president and European Union ambassadors have privately urged the Australian government to send a high-level minister to a peace summit in Switzerland to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese last night. They discussed the peace summit. That's according to Mr. Zelensky. He was writing on X. He said, and I quote, "I highly appreciate Australia's willingness to be present at the summit." Ambassadors from the EU and member states issued a separate call to Australia's Foreign Affairs Department. A European official confirmed, according to AAP, Mr. Albanese is yet to decide on attending the mid-June summit. And story number 5, an Australian Hong Kong dual citizen has been found guilty, along with 13 others, of subversion charges under a controversial 2020 national security law imposed on Hong Kong by Beijing. There are also 2 acquittals, the first time that's happened when anyone's actually been charged with breaching the security law. The 16 defendants who received their verdicts were among 47 who were accused of conspiring to subvert state power by holding unofficial primary elections, according to Bloomberg. The defendants are accused of a vicious plot to paralyse government and force the city's leaders to resign through an unofficial pre-selection ballot in the July 2020 citywide election. Now, 16 got their verdict yesterday. The remaining 31 had already pleaded guilty. The convicted face a maximum penalty of life in prison and will be sentenced at a later date. Gordon Ung, who attended Waverley College in Sydney's East, is one of those. He's been detained since 2021 on the national security charges. That's it for the afternoon report for Thursday, the 30th of May, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.